Okay, let's dive in. We're looking at musical form today, and our guide uses this great phrase, the architectonics of music.
Yeah. Shapes the sonic landscape. It's a powerful image.
It really is. And, for anyone listening who wants to get up to speed quickly, understanding this stuff, the structure, it's like getting the blueprint. It changes how you hear things.
Absolutely. And it taps into something fundamental, doesn't it? This idea that we look for order, for a sense of direction in things, music included,
Exactly. So this source we're using, chapter 11, it lays out how composers arrange all the bits, melody, harmony, rhythm.
to make something coherent, something that feels like it's going somewhere, not just random sounds.
Right. We'll start simple and build up.
And for you listening, knowing these forms, it really takes you beyond just, humming the tune.
Mm-hmm.
You start to get the why. Why did the composer do that there?
Mm-hmm. You see the bigger picture. So the plan is binary, ternary, the basics.
Uh-huh.
Then sonata form, the big one.
A real cornerstone.
Then rondo, theme, and variations. And we'll touch on the grand structures too, like symphonies, concertos, operas.
And all along, we'll keep track of those key ideas.
Yeah.
Repetition and contrast.
Yeah, they seem to underpin everything. It's interesting how the simple forms kind of feed into the more complex ones too.
Definitely. The principles you learn in binary, they help you make sense of sonata later on.
Okay, foundations first. Binary form, AB. Simple as that, right? Two parts.
Pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And often, like the source says, you get repetition. A-B-B. Very common in dances, folk music.
So what makes that AB structure work?
Well, section A, it sets the scene, presents the main musical idea, usually in the home key, the tonic, establishes the character.
Got it. Home base.
Then section B comes along and offers something different, a contrast, maybe a new key, different tune, different rhythm.
So it feels like you've gone somewhere else for a bit.
Exactly, a departure.
And the repetition, the AABB, just padding.
Oh, no, not at all. It's crucial, actually. It helps fix those ideas in your head, makes it familiar, easier to grasp the structure.
Like saying something, then saying it again for emphasis.
Precisely. Before you move on to the contrasting bit.
Okay, so let's build on that. Add a return trip. Ternary form, ABA.
Right. Statement, departure, and return.
That return must feel pretty satisfying.
It does. That's where you get the sense of closure. After the B section's little journey, coming back to A, usually in that home tonic key again, it feels resolved.
And the source mentions the return, the final A, doesn't have to be identical. It can be varied.
Yeah, and that's a nice touch. It stops it feeling too mechanical.
Right.
It can show how the first ideas maybe been affected by the B section. Slightly different perspective after the contrast. Adds a bit of sophistication.
So even these simple forms, binary and ternary, they're already showing us these core ideas, stating something, contrasting it, maybe coming back.
Absolutely. They're the building blocks. You see repetition creating unity, contrast keeping things interesting, and return giving that sense of completion. Really fundamental stuff.
Okay, moving up in complexity. Sonata form, called a cornerstone of Western music. You hear it everywhere. Symphonies, concertos. What gives it that status?
Well, it's incredibly versatile. It provides this really solid structure. But within that, composers have enormous freedom.
Mm.
It's perfect for developing ideas dramatically, exploring different keys, telling a kind of musical story over a longer stretch. So yeah, composers really ran with it, especially from the classical period.
Right, and it generally has three main parts: exposition, development, recapitulation. Let's take the exposition first. What's happening there?
Okay, exposition is all about introducing the main characters, the main themes, usually two contrasting ones.
Two themes, okay.
First theme kicks things off, usually in the tonic key, often quite memorable, maybe energetic, sets the main mood.
And the second theme, you said contrasting.
Yeah, and crucially, it's usually in a different key, often the dominant or maybe the relative major.
Why the difference?
Ah, that's key. Literally. It creates harmonic tension right away. And the theme itself often contrasts in character, too. Maybe it's more lyrical, smoother compared to the first.
So you've got these two main ideas potentially in conflict because of the different keys.
Exactly, sets up the drama.
And then there's often a closing bit, a codetta.
Right, that just helps wrap up the exposition, confirms that new key of the second theme, and kind of signals, okay, get ready for the next part.
Which is the development. Sounds like where the action happens.
It really is. This is where the composer takes those themes from the exposition and really plays with them, pulls them apart, combines fragments, explores different keys.
So lots of key changes. Harmonic instability.
Definitely. Lots of modulation and often feels quite restless, searching, maybe dramatic or tense. This is where the composer can really show off their ingenuity, Maximum freedom here.
Taking the ideas on an adventure.
You could say that. Putting them through their paces.
And after all that exploration, we get the recapitulation. What's the goal here?
Recapitulation means, well, restatement. So you hear the themes from the exposition again.
Okay. But is it just a repeat?
Not quite. There's one absolutely crucial difference. Remember that tension between the two themes being in different keys?
Yeah.
In the recapitulation, both themes are now presented in the tonic key, the home key.
So the conflict is resolved.
Exactly. That harmonic tension dissolves, everything comes back home. It provides that feeling of stability, resolution.
Makes sense. And sometimes there's a coda tacked on the end.
Yeah, coda is like a final sign-off. It really hammers home the tonic key, gives a strong sense of finality, wraps everything up neatly.
Wow. So sonata form is this whole journey, introducing ideas, developing them, creating tension, resolving it. Quite a dramatic arc.
It really is a fantastic framework for musical storytelling, balancing structure with expressive potential.
Okay, let's switch gears slightly. Rondo and theme and variations. Different ways to handle repetition and contrast, right?
Different strategies.
Rondo first. Sounds like it keeps coming back to something.
That's the essence of it. You have a main theme, the refrain, let's call it A, that keeps returning.
Okay, the A theme.
And in between its appearances, you get contrasting sections episodes. B, C, maybe more.
So like ABACA.
Exactly, or maybe ABAC, ABA. The A theme is usually pretty catchy, easy to recognize. It's the anchor.
Provides the unity, and the B and C bits provide the variety.
Yep. They introduce new tunes, new ideas, maybe different moods, so it doesn't get boring just hearing A over and over. It's like visiting different places, but always coming back to your favorite spot.
You often find rondos and finales, don't you? They feel quite upbeat usually.
Very common. That recurring theme gives it a kind of cheerful, cyclical energy, often perfect for ending a piece.
Okay. Now, theme and variations. The name says it all, almost. You start with a theme.
And then you present it again and again. But each time it's altered, transformed in some way. Varied.
How do composers create those variations? What kinds of changes?
Oh, lots of ways. The source lists a few. You can change the melody itself, add ornaments, change the rhythm of the tune, alter the intervals.
So decorate it or give it a different feel.
Right. Or you can keep the melody more or less intact, but change the harmony underneath it. Use different chords. That can totally change the mood.
I can imagine. What else?
Rhythm is a big one. Change the tempo, the meter, introduce syncopation. Or change the instrumentation, give the theme to different instruments. Think a solo violin versus the full brass section.
Huge difference in character, texture too.
Yeah, texture. Make it thicker by adding more lines like counter melodies, or make it thinner, more transparent.
So one single theme can become the source for a whole range of different musical ideas and feelings.
Exactly. It's a fantastic way to explore the potential hidden within one core idea. It can be incredibly inventive. Shows off compositional skill, too.
So Rondo keeps bringing back the same theme between different episodes, while Variations keeps transforming the one theme.
Good way to put it. Both playing with that balance of familiar and new, just different approaches.
Right. Now let's zoom out. The big forms, symphony, concerto, opera, these are multi-movement works. How do they use the forms we've talked about?
They essentially use those smaller forms as building blocks within a larger structure. They create these extended musical journeys.
Let's start with the symphony. Typically 4 movements.
Usually, yeah. The standard classical symphony format. First movement. Often weighty, dramatic, usually sonata form.
Okay, starting strong.
Second movement.
Yeah.
Typically slow, lyrical. A contrast in tempo and mood. Could be ternary form, maybe variations.
A moment of reflection, perhaps.
Could be. Third movement. Often a livelier, dance-like movement. Originally a minuet. Later often a faster scherzo. Provides another contrast.
Minor relief.
Sometimes, yeah. And the fourth movement, the finale. Usually fast, energetic. Could be sonata form again, or rondo, or variations. Brings the whole thing to a rousing conclusion.
So a whole journey across the 4 movements, often using those forms we discussed within each one.
Exactly. A large-scale architecture built from those components.
And the concerto. Soloist plus orchestra, usually 3 movements.
That's the standard setup. Fast, slow, fast.
Okay.
It's all about the interplay, the dialogue between the soloist and the orchestra.
Highlighting the soloist.
Definitely. Showcasing virtuosity and expression. The first movement is often a special kind of sonata form, sometimes called double exposition.
Meaning?
The orchestra presents the themes first, then the soloist comes in and presents them, often more elaborately.
Interesting. Then the slow second movement.
Yeah, lyrical, expressive, really lets the soloist shine, show their sensitive side.
And the finale?
Fast and brilliant, often a rondo, maybe a sonata-rondo hybrid, leaves you with a feeling of excitement.
Okay. And opera. That's a whole different world, combining music, drama, staging.
It's a total art form. Music is serving the drama, but within that you find specific musical structures.
Like arias.
Right, the big solo numbers where a character expresses deep emotion, often quite structured musically.
And recitatives.
That's more like sun speech. It carries the plot forward, conveys dialogue, musically simpler, usually follows speech rhythms more closely.
Then you have groups singing together.
Ensembles, yes. Duets, trios, quartets, where characters interact musically, expressing agreements, conflict, whatever the drama requires. And choruses, of course,
Big groups.
representing the crowd, commenting on the action, setting the scene. Powerful stuff.
So these massive forms, symphony, concerto, opera, they're like the cathedrals of music, using all these structural ideas to build something grand.
That's a good analogy. Frameworks for complex, extended artistic statements exploring a huge range of ideas and emotions.
Now, through all of this, from A-B to giant operas, the source keeps coming back to two fundamental ideas: repetition and contrast. You called them the yin and yang earlier.
Yeah, they really are the core principles driving all these forms. Everything revolves around balancing these two.
Okay, let's break that down. Repetition, what's its job?
Its job is to create unity, make things stick. Familiarity, it helps you, the listener, make sense of the music, remember themes, feel grounded.
So it provides coherence, like signposts.
Exactly. Whether it's a tiny repeated rhythm or the return of a whole section, it anchors the experience.
And contrast, the other side of the coin.
Contrast is what keeps you engaged. It provides variety, surprise, prevents boredom. If everything was the same, you'd tune out.
So it creates interest, maybe tension or excitement.
Precisely. And contrast comes in so many flavors. New melody, different key, faster tempo, louder dynamics, different instruments. It creates the feeling of movement, of development.
So really all these musical forms, binary, sonata, rondo, whatever, they're just different ways of organizing repetition and contrast, different recipes using the same basic ingredients.
That's essentially it. Finding that effective balance is key. Enough repetition for coherence, enough contrast for interest. That's what makes a piece feel satisfying, emotionally engaging. Unity and variety.
It's interesting how the source connects this to bigger ideas too, like cycles in nature, cosmic patterns.
Yeah, suggesting this interplay isn't just a human invention for music, but maybe reflects something deeper about how things work, period. The ebb and flow, the push and pull.
A universal principle, maybe?
Perhaps. The thought-provoking connection.
So wrapping up this deep dive, we've seen the simple AB and ABA of binary and ternary, the dramatic journey of sonata form, the recurring refrain of rondo, the transformations of theme and variations, and how these power the larger structures like symphonies, concertos, and operas.
And the constant throughout is that interplay, that dance between repeating things to make them familiar and changing things to keep them fresh.
Understanding these structures, these blueprints, really does give you a new way to listen, doesn't it? A deeper appreciation.
Absolutely. You start to hear the composer's choices, the underlying architecture.
So maybe a question for you listening. Thinking about this idea of form, repetition, contrast, where else do you see these principles at play? Not just in music, but maybe in stories, in nature, even in your daily routines.
Yeah. Does recognizing these musical patterns change how you perceive patterns elsewhere?
And how might knowing about, say, sonata form or rondo change how you listen to different kinds of music you come across?
It's fascinating to think about whether these structures resonate because they tap into something fundamental about how we perceive and organize the world.
Maybe understanding the architectonics of music, as our source puts it, gives you a little window onto a kind of deeper harmony in the patterns shaping everything around us.
Definitely food for thought.
Yeah.
We'd encourage you to go back to music you know well, listen again with these forms in mind, or maybe explore music from totally different traditions and see what kinds of structures you find there.